Chapter 1. A World of Struggles. My name is Layla, and my life has been one long journey through hardship, love, and resilience. I grew up in a small, forgotten town where the streets were cracked and opportunities were scarce. My family was poor, and life was a daily struggle to make ends meet. I was the youngest of 6 children, born into a world where food was never guaranteed, and we often wore second-hand clothes that barely fit. My father worked as a laborer in the fields, earning just enough to keep us going, while my mother stayed at home to care for us. There were days when the only food we had was a small portion of rice or some wild fruits my older siblings managed to find. Hunger became a familiar feeling to me, a constant companion. I was still very young when I first understood the weight of poverty. I watched my father come home exhausted, his face lined with the strain of long hours in the hot sun. My mother's hands were rough from doing endless chores without proper tools. I knew that my parents loved us, but love couldn't always fill our bellies. Still, they did their best, and their sacrifices are something I will never forget. Chapter 2. A Ray of Hope. Despite our circumstances, I was always curious about the world. I longed to learn and discover things beyond the borders of our small town, but school seemed like an unreachable dream. We couldn't afford the fees, and most of the girls in my village didn't attend school anyway. Education, they said, was for boys, and girls were expected to stay at home and prepare for their roles as wives and mothers. But I didn't want that. I wanted more. I often snuck into the local school and stood outside, watching the children my age learn to read and write through the window. My heart ached with a desire to be part of that world, to hold a pencil in my hand and write my own name. One day, when I was about 10 years old, I gathered the courage to ask my father if I could go to school. His face softened with sadness. He told me we simply couldn't afford it, and my place was at home helping my mother. But I didn't give up. Every day, I begged him, insisting that I would find a way to balance both school and my responsibilities at home. After months of pleading, my father finally relented. He sold a few chickens, one of the few things we had of value, and used the money to enroll me in the local school. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get me started. I will never forget the first day I walked into that classroom, barefoot and wearing old clothes, but with my heart full of hope. I felt like I was entering a new world. Chapter 3. Balancing Dreams and Duty. School was everything I had hoped for, but it was also a challenge. I was older than most of the other students, and my classmates often made fun of me for being poor and wearing torn clothes. But I didn't let their words discourage me. I was there to learn, and nothing else mattered. I woke up early each morning to help my mother with the household chores, cooking, cleaning, and fetching water, before walking to school. After classes, I returned home to work in the fields with my father, or help my siblings with their tasks. It was exhausting, but I didn't mind. I was learning to read and write, something that had seemed impossible just a short time ago. My teachers noticed my determination and began to pay special attention to me. They lent me books, even though I couldn't afford to buy any, and they encouraged me to study hard. Slowly, I began to excel in my studies. I realized that education was not just a way to escape the poverty I had known all my life, but also a key to a future I had only dared to dream of. Chapter 4. The Hardships Continue. Though my education was progressing, life at home became more difficult. My father fell ill, and without his income, our family's financial situation worsened. My older brothers had left to find work in distant cities, leaving my mother and me to care for my younger siblings. I started working part-time, cleaning houses and doing laundry for wealthier families in the village to earn some extra money. It wasn't enough, but it helped put a little food on the table. At school, my friends would talk about their family's holidays, new clothes, and meals they enjoyed, while I worried about whether my family would eat that night. There were days when I felt overwhelmed, like the weight of the world was pressing down on me. I thought about giving up school to help my family full-time, but every time I was tempted to quit, I remembered why I started in the first place. I remembered my father's sacrifice and the promise I had made to myself, to rise above the circumstances of my birth. Chapter 5: A Turning Point. One fateful day, a visitor came to our school. She was a woman from a charity organization that helped underprivileged girls continue their education. She spoke to our class about scholarships and how they could change lives. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Could this be my chance? I applied for the scholarship with the help of my teachers, who believed in my potential. I wrote an essay about my life, my struggles, and my dreams for the future. I didn't think I stood much of a chance, but I knew I had to try. Weeks passed, and I heard nothing. I tried not to get my hopes up, but it was difficult not to dream about what life could be like if I was chosen. Then, one afternoon, my teacher called me aside and handed me a letter. My hands trembled as I opened it. I had been selected for the scholarship. I couldn't believe it. This was the break I had been praying for. The scholarship covered my school fees and provided me with books, a uniform, and even some money for meals. It was more than I could have ever hoped for. Chapter 6: The Power of Perseverance. With the burden of financial worries lifted, I was able to focus entirely on my studies. I continued to work part-time to support my family, but now I had hope. I excelled in school, becoming one of the top students in my class. My teachers were proud of me, and my classmates began to respect me for my achievements. After completing secondary school, I was offered a place at a university in the city. It was a dream come true, but it also meant leaving my family behind. My mother was proud of me, but I knew she needed me at home. Still, she insisted that I go, telling me that this was my chance to change our lives for the better. University was a world apart from the life I had known. The city was bustling with energy, and the campus was filled with students from all walks of life. I felt out of place at first, but I soon found my footing. I studied hard, knowing that I was not just doing this for myself, but for my family as well. Chapter 7: Finding My Purpose. While at university, I discovered a passion for social work. I had always been aware of the struggles of those around me, and I wanted to use my education to make a difference. I began volunteering with organizations that helped poor families and underprivileged children, just like the one that had helped me. I saw so much of my own story in the people I worked with. Young girls who had dreams but no means to achieve them. Families struggling to put food on the table. Children who longed for an education but couldn't afford it. I knew I had found my calling. After graduating, I returned to my village with a mission. I started a small foundation to support girls' education, providing scholarships to those who couldn't afford to go to school. It wasn't easy, and there were many challenges along the way, but I was determined to give back to the community that had shaped me. Chapter 8: A Legacy of Hope. Today, the foundation has grown beyond what I ever imagined. We have helped hundreds of girls pursue their education, and many have gone on to achieve great things. I continue to work in social services, advocating for the rights of women and children, and using my voice to bring attention to the issues that matter. Looking back on my journey, I am filled with gratitude for my family's sacrifices, for the teachers who believed in me, and for the opportunities that came my way. But more than anything, I am proud of the person I have become. The girl who once stood outside the classroom window, dreaming of a better life, is now helping others realize their own dreams. My story is not just about escaping poverty. It's about resilience, determination, and the belief that even the poorest among us can rise above our circumstances with the right support and a lot of hard work. My name is Layla, and this is my story, but it could be the story of anyone who dares to dream, no matter how impossible those dreams may seem. The end. Subscribe for more videos. Your support helps me create more content. Thanks for watching.